Perhaps no film has been more defined by its score than 1975's blockbuster Jaws. Expertly crafted by John Williams, it's the essential driving force of the film.
You're gonna need a bigger boat, right? Gotta get it work.
But what if I told you that the best use of music in this film that won an Oscar for Best Original Score was actually a moment where it wasn't used at all?
Ace goes in the water, you go in the water, sharks in the water.
But to help you understand why, we need a bit of context.
Who's driving this boat?
Nobody. Tide.
At this point, we're 80 minutes into the film. Our three main heroes are finally aboard the Orca, and so far, there have been 4 major confrontations with the shark.
And you knew it. You knew there was a shark out there.
And while the scenes are all slightly different from each other, they all have one major element in common. The score. And more specifically, they've been built up to and highlighted by 2 distinct notes.
So I remember the first day I played, Stephen said, what we do for the shark? And I just played an octave E on the piano and then E and then F and repeated them and accelerated them and so on. And he said something like, you think that'll work? You gotta be kidding, it's so simple. This idea of characterizing the shark musically, these low thumping ostinato notes in the bass, you know, were the result of a very simple idea that I had, that I thought that the shark should be represented by something in sound or in music.
As you've probably heard a million times, the film was originally supposed to heavily feature the animatronic shark, but plans changed when it constantly malfunctioned on set.
The shark is not working. Repeat, the shark is not working.
This meant that John Williams' score had to not only set the mood of the film, but act as a direct substitute for the shark.
To very slow, very fast, very soft, very loud. All of these things could manipulate the moment to illustrate that the shark was at the highest pitch of frenzy or something lower. And this simple dramatic device seemed to be what we needed.
And in order to build up that connection, John Williams knew that if the score was to truly take on the embodiment of the shark, then it could only be played when the shark was truly nearby, even if it was only represented by a camera angle or floating barrels.
Brody front and deck, watch for him.
John did not want music to celebrate a red herring. He only wanted music to signal the actual arrival of the shark.
We hear it before Chrissy's death, before the death of Alex, and before it pulls the Doc and the fisherman out to sea.
Hey, go!
But notice that when the 2 boys prank the beach by pretending to be the shark, it's completely silent.
You made me do it!
In fact, we don't hear the music in this scene until we see the real shark in the pond.
You guys okay over there?
It gave the scenes, and the film as a whole, a distinct personality, and quickly became crucial to the film's glowing success, with Spielberg even stating,
And without that score, to this day I believe the film would have only been half as successful.
so if the music was so instrumental to the film, then how could its best use be a time when it was completely absent? Well, it's simple. John Williams was an expert in something called musical conditioning.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.
Okay, so we're back with our 3 heroes aboard the Orca, and Quint says,
Brody! Start that chum line again, will you?
and then tells Hooper to take it.
Slow ahead, if you please.
And finally, as we linger on Chief Brody and he starts to mock him, we get arguably one of the best scares in all of cinema.
Come on down and chum some of this shit.
And iconic quote aside,
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
the reason this scene stuck with audiences throughout the years is that it was not only the first time we fully see the shark, but the music gave us absolutely no warning.
There were opportunities in the movie to advertise the shark with the music, and there are also opportunities when we don't have the music and the audience has a sense of an absence. They sense the absence of the shark because they don't hear the thump-thump, because we've conditioned them to do that.
Essentially, John Williams trained the audience to believe that the shark could only be nearby if the music could be heard, and that you are also safe in its absence. And by placing the score at very specific points in the first half of the film, he created a Pavlovian response from the audience.
The many times that we didn't have the shark, all we had to do was point the camera out to sea and play his score, and everybody screamed.
It's a technique that was utilized to such perfection that numerous horror films would create their own associations. But for the scene in question, Williams did the exact opposite. For the pivotal moment when we finally get the grand reveal of the shark, he purposefully pulled back, and by choosing to play nothing, he fully manipulated our emotions.
But then you may go one step further, and we know now the shark really is there, but we haven't advertised it with music, so his attack comes out of silence. And now, because you've been conditioned to have the music every time when you don't, and the shark arrives, it's even more terrifying.
And to better understand this, all we have to do is compare the original scene to a version where the music is added.
Chum some of this shit. Chum some of this shit.
With the music in play, the scene becomes far too predictable, and being an expert in compositional placement, Williams knew adding it in would ruin the scare.
Part of the genius of John Williams is how he spots music and how he places music in a movie. That's sort of something that's never discussed about the art of composition, is the placement of that composition.
And speaking of composition, Spielberg used a similar conditioning trick by using multiple shots of characters with water in the background to desensitize us from the odd framing.
But it's definitely a game.
Jaws is a film that was doomed from the start, and with the failure of the animatronics, it seemed destined to fail.
We've been here 105 shooting days, and we were only scheduled for something like 65 or 70.
But through the incredible editing of Verna Fields and the genius of John Williams, it became a classic that's sure to stand the test of time.
Tiger shark.
A what?
And for a film known so strongly for its legendary film score, it's only fitting that John Williams used silence as his greatest weapon.
That shark put that cage. You got any better suggestions?
I'm Luke.
Y'all know me. Know how I earn a living.
Thanks for watching.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.